mentioned at the start of the show, of course, Peruvian jungle. Now, that one sounds a little bit dangerous.
It was a hardcore experience. It was a bit like Celebrity. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here.
Creepy crawlies.
Creepy crawlies. We went. I started something called El Color de Esperanza, which is called the Colour of Hope, with alongside another church in Lima, and they reach out to the Peruvian indigenous tribes along the Peruvian Amazon jungle. And so they were doing a trip, and they asked me if I would come along, and we were going right up the Amazon, or the tributary of the Amazon, by boat. It's the only way to get to the tribes people, and there was not a lot. They speak their own tribe's language, and then they're translated from that into Spanish, and I can't speak any languages except English. And so we had this idea to do art workshops, and also to take school kits to the children who they're just so poor they don't have anything. So we went on this trip, and one of the boat journeys was about 14 hours long, and it could take up to another 20, 24 hours altogether.
Wow, you can't get sort of seasick if you're on a boat and then travelling by land.
No. And depending on the currents, because the river was so wide and so full of currents, and half the jungle floating down it, and they decided to take a sort of a short cut off to this village, and it got narrower and narrower, and in the end they were macheting down these branches and tree trunks, and I thought, oh my goodness. And eventually, after hours of cutting through this, we came out into this swamp, and I'd put on my prayer request please pray I don't see my pet hate tarantulas. And as we got through these trees and the jungle, we came out into this swamp, and I just sort of never pray anything you don't want to happen. I prayed, maybe God, it would be a good idea if I see a tarantula and it would break the fear. 5 minutes later, we were stuck in this swamp, and there were tarantulas crawling everywhere, and we ended up there. We were so stuck that we couldn't get out, and we were told we have to spend the night there. And there were it was an open boat, and we had hammocks but no mosquito nets because we were sleeping in tents when we arrived in the villages. And when I saw a big tarantula above my head, I thought, oh my goodness. But I prayed, and I thought, God's done something. I didn't panic. So it was amazing.
Healing of your fear of tarantulas. Well, if it took, travelling all the way to the indigenous people there in Peru to heal you of your fears, maybe it was worth it. Wow. I mean, it sounds like a reminder that actually sometimes when God wants to take us to do things, take us to another level, actually we do have to overcome some things, and there are some sacrifices to make along the way.
It certainly was. It was a hardcore experience, but the next morning we eventually got out, and we were rescued by a teeny little boat, and that was another long story to get to this particular village. And when I woke up the next morning, I was singing in my spirit, the sun comes up and a new day's dawning. I'll sing a praise to God, and praise his holy name. And I was singing that song for the rest of the trip, and I thought it's taken on a whole new meaning to me.
Tune in to Woman with Maria Rodrigues, weekdays from 10:35 a.m, only on Premier Christian Radio, where faith comes to life.